The Lotus Sutra, Chapter 15, Springing Up from the Earth. At that time, the Bodhisattvas, the great ones, who had come from other lands, and were more numerous than the sands of 8 Ganges, arose in the great assembly, and with palms together, greeted and spoke to the Buddha, saying, "World-honored one, if the Buddha will allow us diligently and devotedly to protect and embrace this sutra, read and recite it, copy it, and make offerings to it in this world, after your extinction, we would teach it everywhere throughout this land." Then the Buddha said to the whole group of Bodhisattva great ones, "Enough, my good sons and good daughters. There is no need for you to protect and embrace this sutra. Why? Because in my world itself there are as many Bodhisattva great ones as there are sands in 60,000 Ganges, and each one of these Bodhisattvas has as many followers as there are sands in 60,000 Ganges. After my extinction, they will be able to protect and embrace, read and recite, and teach this sutra everywhere." When the Buddha had said this, the earth of this 3,000 great thousand-fold world trembled and split open, and from it innumerable tens of millions of billions of Bodhisattva great ones sprang up together. These Bodhisattvas all had golden-hued bodies, the 32 characteristics, and immeasurable radiance. Previously, they had all been living in the world of empty space below this world, and when these Bodhisattvas heard the sound of the voice of Shakyamuni Buddha preaching, they appeared from below. Each of these Bodhisattvas was the leader of a huge group, a following as numerous as the sands of 60,000 Ganges. And this is not to mention those who led followings as numerous as the sands of 50,000, 40,000, 30,000, 20,000, or 10,000 Ganges, or those who had followings as small as the sands of 1 Ganges, the sands of half a Ganges, a quarter of a Ganges, or as few as 1 billion followers, or 10 million, 1 million, or just 10,000, 1,000, 100, or even 10, or those who led 5, 4, 3, or 2 disciples, or only 1, or those who were alone, preferring solitary practice. Such were they, then, as to be innumerable, unlimited, beyond comprehension by powers of calculation or parable and simile. When these Bodhisattvas emerged from the earth, each one up in the air to the wonderful stupa of the 7 precious materials, where Tathagata abundant treasures and Shakyamuni Buddha were. When they reached it, they bowed and prostrated themselves to both world-honored ones. Then they went to the Buddhas, seated on the lion seats under the jewel trees, and greeted them, circled around them to the right 3 times, with palms together in respect, and praised them with all kinds of bodhisattva praise. Then they stood to one side, gazing with joy at the 2 world-honored ones. While these bodhisattva great ones who had sprung up from the earth praised the Buddhas with all kinds of bodhisattva praises, 50 small eons went by. During this time, Shakyamuni Buddha sat in silence, and silent also for the 50 eons were the 4 groups. But the divine powers of the Buddha made it seem to the great multitude like only half a day. At that time, the 4 groups, also by the divine powers of the Buddha, saw the Bodhisattvas filling the skies of innumerable hundreds of thousands of billions of lands. Among all these Bodhisattvas were the 4 leaders. The first, named Superior Practice. The second, Unlimited Practice. The third, Pure Practice. And the fourth, Firm Practice. These 4 Bodhisattvas were the foremost leaders and teachers of the entire group. Before the great assembly, with palms together, each of them looked toward Shakyamuni Buddha and inquired, World-honored one, are your ailments and troubles few, and is your practice going smoothly? Are those you want to save readily receiving your teachings? Doesn't the effort they require make the world-honored one tired? Then the world-honored one, in the great assembly of Bodhisattvas, said, Yes, yes, my good sons, the Tathagata is at ease, with few ailments and few troubles. The living beings here are easy to transform and save, and they do not make me tired. Why? Because all these beings, for generation after generation, have been transformed by me, and they have made offerings to previous Buddhas and honored them, planting good roots. When all these beings saw me for the first time and heard my preaching, they received it in faith and entered the wisdom of a Tathagata. Then these great Bodhisattvas spoke in verse. Good, good, great hero, world-honored one, all these living beings are easily transformed and saved. They are well able to inquire about the profound wisdom of Buddhas, and upon hearing, have faith and understanding. We rejoice. And then the world-honored one praised these leaders, the great Bodhisattvas, saying, Good, good, my sons, you express joy in your hearts for the Tathagata. Then Maitreya Bodhisattva and the multitude of other Bodhisattvas, as numerous as the sands of 8,000 Ganges, all thought, Never in the past have we seen or heard of such a multitude of great Bodhisattva great ones emerging from the earth, standing now in the presence of the world-honored ones, with palms together, making offerings and inquiring about the Tathagata. Then Maitreya Bodhisattva, the great one, aware of thoughts in the minds of all the Bodhisattvas, as numerous as the sands of 8,000 Ganges, and wanting also to resolve his own doubt, put his palms together, facing the Buddha, and asked him in verse, Please, most honored of people, explain where they have come from, and why they have come. These multitudes of Bodhisattvas, with their great dignity, virtue, and diligence, who taught the Dharma for them, educated, transformed, and developed them, under whom did they begin to seek awakening? What Buddha Dharma did they praise? What sutras have they received, embraced, and practiced? What Buddha way have they studied and put into practice? World-honored one, in the past we have never seen such things. Please tell us where they come from and the name of that land. Suddenly they have come from the earth. Please tell us why. The innumerable millions and millions of bodhisattvas and others now here in this great congregation want to know these things. Meanwhile, the Buddhas embodying Shakyamuni Buddha, who had come from innumerable tens of millions of billions of lands in other directions, were sitting cross-legged on the lion seats under the jewel trees, spread out in the 8 directions. The attendants of these bodhisattvas all saw the great multitude of bodhisattvas who emerged from the earth in all 4 regions of the 3,000 great thousandfold world and were now suspended in the air. Each spoke to his own Buddha, saying, World-honored one, this great, innumerable, unlimited, countless multitude of bodhisattvas, where have they come from? Then each of those Buddhas told his own attendants, Good sons and good daughters, wait a while. There is a bodhisattva great one named Maitreya, who has been assured by Shakyamuni Buddha that he is to be the next Buddha. He has already asked about this matter, and the Buddha is about to answer him. You should listen for yourselves to what he has to say. Then Shakyamuni Buddha said to Maitreya Bodhisattva, Good, good, Ajita, that you have asked the Buddha about so great a matter. All of you, with complete devotion, should put on the armor of perseverance and exhibit a firm will. The Tathagata now intends to reveal and proclaim the wisdom of Buddhas, the unhindered divine powers of Buddhas, the fierce lion-like powers of Buddhas, and the brave and mighty powers of Buddhas. Then the world-honored one, wanting to state his meaning once again, spoke in verse. Persevere and pay attention. I am about to explain this matter. Have no doubts or regrets. Buddha wisdom is difficult to understand. Now show your faith. Be patient and good, for you are all about to hear the Dharma never heard before. I will now put your minds at ease. Have neither doubt nor fear. The Buddha has only true words. His wisdom is beyond measure. The supreme Dharma he attained is profound and beyond analysis. I will now teach it. Give me your complete attention and listen. Then the world-honored one, having spoken these verses, said to Maitreya Bodhisattva, I now declare to all of you in this great assembly, Ajita, that all these great Bodhisattva great ones, in unquantifiable, innumerable, countless numbers, who have emerged from the earth, and whom you have never seen before, after attaining supreme awakening in this world, I taught, transformed, and led these Bodhisattvas. I trained them and caused them to aspire to the way. All these Bodhisattvas live in the empty space beneath this world, where they read, recite, gain insight into, ponder over, and analyze various sutras and remember them correctly. And then the world-honored one, wanting to proclaim this teaching once again, spoke in verse. Ajita, you should know, all these great Bodhisattvas for innumerable eons have studied and practiced the wisdom of the Buddha. Liking quiet places, rejecting the noise of crowds, finding no pleasure in much talk, such sons and daughters as these study and practice my Dharma and way, persevering day and night in order to seek the Buddha way. They live in the space beneath this world, firm in the power of their intentions, always diligently seeking wisdom. They teach all kinds of wonderful things and are without fear. They all live in the state of never backsliding. All will become Buddhas. What I say now is true. Believe me wholeheartedly. From the long distant past, I have been teaching and transforming this multitude. And then Maitreya Bodhisattva, the Great One, as well as the innumerable Bodhisattvas, had some doubt in their minds. Wondering about this strange and unprecedented thing, they thought, how has the world-honored one, in so short a time, taught and transformed such an innumerable, unlimited, countless number of great Bodhisattvas, enabling them to dwell in supreme awakening? Then, addressing the Buddha, he said, World-honored one, when the Tathagata was a crowned prince, you left the Shakya palace, sat at the place of the way not far from the city of Gaya, and attained supreme awakening. Since then, only a little over 40 years have passed. World-honored one, in so short a time, how could you have done so much work of a Buddha? By what powers of a Buddha or blessings of a Buddha have you taught and transformed such an innumerable multitude of great Bodhisattvas, enabling them to attain supreme awakening? World-honored one, even if someone counted such a multitude of great Bodhisattvas through tens of millions of billions of eons, one would never come to an end or reach their limit. From the remote past, under innumerable and countless Buddhas, they would have planted roots of goodness, fulfilled the Bodhisattva way, and always observed noble practices. World-honored one, the world will find it hard to believe such a thing as this. Actually, it has not been long since you attained the way, yet this great multitude of Bodhisattvas, for innumerable tens of millions of billions of eons, have already diligently devoted themselves for the sake of the Buddha way. They have entered into, come out of, and dwelt in innumerable hundreds of thousands of billions of concentrations, have attained the great divine faculties, and for a long time observed noble practices. Step by step they have been able to learn all kinds of good teachings, and they are skillful in questions and answers. They are treasures among people and extremely rare in the worlds. And now, today, the world-honored one has told us that in the time since you attained the Buddha way, you have caused them to aspire to awakening. You have taught and transformed them, led them, and enabled them to turn towards supreme awakening. It is not long ago that the world-honored one became a Buddha, yet you have been able to carry out this great meritorious activity. We still believe that the Buddha's preaching is appropriate, that you never say anything empty or false, and that the Buddha's knowledge has all thoroughly penetrated and been mastered. But if, after the Buddha's extinction, newly aspiring bodhisattvas hear this, they may not be able to receive and believe it. Therefore, world-honored one, please explain it to put our doubts to rest, so that, in the future, when good sons and daughters hear of this matter, they too will have no doubts.